Hello, everyone. So today I'm really excited to be talking to Prime Minister, who I haven't seen for a long time because I think you've been quite busy on your tour. So what have you been up to since I last saw you?
Well, besides the constant battle with the censorship of social media, I spent some time in Dallas with Negative 48 and the Negative 48 crew, learning gematria, understanding some things about this operation and how gematria plays into it. And yeah, just learning a lot of interesting things. And we went to many, many Trump rallies supporting President Trump on his rallies around across the country. So I've been to about almost 20 rallies,
Wow,
and
that's a
got
lot.
a chance to see yeah, I got a chance to see a lot of America. Spend a lot of time with the Negative 48 crew. Um,
So what's it
really, just
like
kind of
out there? What's it
yeah.
like out there, Prime, when you're going to all these cities and places? Is there a good vibe? Is there lots of people, or does it depend on the location?
Well, what it showed me is that the spirit of America is very strong. The MAGA movement is very much alive. We have not accepted the results of the election. So the Patriot community is very strong across the country, and it's an experience. Even before President Trump gets up to speak, there's a time that you spend just kind of mingling with the folks and meeting the locals, and people come from across the country. So it's an amazing time. It's a powerful American spirit, essentially just defying the cabal and the engineered information. We're just cutting through, as we talked earlier, cutting through the lies. It's incredible.
So, just going back a little while, because I've seen you on interviews a long time ago with Nick Feniarmin, but I don't think I ever really knew the background of where you've come in from. So I know that obviously that you've been singing and you've got Pledge Your Allegiance on YouTube, which I'm going to add to the links in this video at the end because it's an amazing song, amazing words. But have you always been a musician? I mean, what's your background? What got you into this whole Patriot movement?
Well, it's a spiritual journey for me. I gave my life to Christ as a young man, as a young adult, some 20 plus years ago. And I had a powerful visitation from our creator. And he kind of commissioned me some 20 years ago to pray for this country. And I had been praying for this country as a part of my spiritual journey. And so a lot of it comes across in my music. So a lot of my music is very coded. If you go back and you listen to my music channel or you go to my website, you listen to my music. My music has message going back 20 years about rock the nations, an event that's going to come, that's going to rock the nations of the world.
Hmm.
The second coming is coming, and the various different things of that nature. And the fall of the cabal, essentially, the rise of the fifth kingdom, you know, which has to do with the book of Daniel prophecy. So a lot of that stuff. So when Trump came into office, I began to see a lot of things that, very similar to Kim Clement and Pastor
Yeah.
Rodney Brown and various individuals who kind of foresaw that Trump would be an instrument for God. And so I just jumped in. I jumped into the fight. I heard a word from Mark Taylor, tell my army to take their place. I answered that call. I heard General Flynn say, um, we have an army of digital soldiers, and so I just answered the call. And then, it's like the current, I didn't intend to go this far, but the current kind of just
Yeah.
took me
It's kind
further
it's
and deep.
kind of like I mean I'm in the UK, right? So I mean it for me to be involved just seems crazy, right? Because why would we want to be involved? But I think the thing is, Prime, it's a calling, isn't it? It's a calling to a bigger, it's a much bigger story than America. It's everything, it's everybody. We're all fighting for you and for everybody at the same time. And what kind of got me going down this path with you was that when we had the freaky flu begin, my background had been I was a teacher, a spiritual teacher, helping people to understand how to connect through meditation to a higher source and angels and things like that. And then the freaky flu came, and I was thinking and getting information that this isn't right. This is not really what this is all about. And then I had this amazing dream where I was in a tunnel, and I was watching a scene, and I could see Donald Trump with a clipboard, and he had an army around him, the military, and he was like calmly telling them things from the clipboard. He had a list of things that had to happen, and you could see him telling them, you're going to do this, you're doing this, and then he was ticking them off. So I was seeing the military plan. I didn't know that at the time, but what I did know from that at that moment was that the man Donald Trump was not how we had been shown on the media. This was a man that was very calm. He had a focus on this plan. He had the military around him, and I from that moment it kind of changed me. And then I started to sort of get into this whole listening to what everyone was saying about the changes that were going on, and that I realized it was a much bigger military organized situation. And then the next dream I had of him, I've had two. The next one, I was sitting up at Hollywood Hills with him on a bench. That I've never actually been there, but on all the films, they're always sitting up at the top and they're looking over. And I kind of had my head like on his shoulder, like if he was a father or something like that. That was the energy I got from him. Like
that's who he is.
Yes.
Correct.
And he was saying to me, everything's going to be all right. Everything's going to be fine. So I had those two dreams very early on. And from then on, I knew that I was being called to speak up about, what was going on in the world. And shortly after that, I started to get channeling about the military plan. So it's just incredible to me, that I'm talking about things like military plans and Starlink and President Trump. And at first, it didn't really make a lot of sense to me either. But now I'm with all of you, and every win you have is a win for me as well. So we're kind of like an army.
We are an army.
Yeah, we're all an army with our calling. We're all doing our little piece to help the movement. And it must be amazing when you're out on the road to meet other people and to hear them, because when you get out there with the people, you're not alone. When we're sitting here on our own, you can think, oh, is it just me? But I would imagine when you're out and there's a group of people surrounding you and saying, we're all with you, that must be an amazing kind of feeling.
It is. I wanted to say to you and your audience that I appreciate you particularly in what you do. One of the things that I've understood in this is that we are a body. And the Bible talks about it, that we are a body and we have many members and we have different functions. And, the foot can't say to the hand that you're not the body because you're not the foot like I am. We look different and we do different things, but we're part of the same body. And that should tell us something. And so I really appreciate you and what you do. I did a song years ago. It was called The Clarion Call. The Clarion Call. And my mentor spoke a powerful message, and it was called Nation Within a Nation Arise. It has to do with a remnant within the people, like if you would look in the vast, the mass of the people, and maybe there's hundreds of millions of people, but within that group, there's a hand-picked individuals who God has a direct connection with for some reason. And that's who we are. That's who we are. That's the reason why we've all kind of gathered from the four corners of the earth to support this great awakening. And so it's a beautiful thing to see what God is doing.
So from what you've been saying to me, it sounds like you were given prophecy through the lyrics that were coming down to you at that time. So you said this started happening like 20 years ago. You had this vision or this experience, and then you started
Yeah.
to actually, you're channeling like I channel, but you're channeling the words, the lyrics, and the music, but it's still channeling, and you
Yeah.
get an
Yeah. It's not.
idea, don't you? You get an
Yeah.
idea, and it comes in, and then you normally have your pad and your pen or your keyboard or whatever your instrument is, and you just get those ideas down, and then it sounds to me like the words that you were being given from the titles that you've just said to me were for this moment in time.
Literally.
So you're like Kim
Literally.
Clement, but you were prophesizing through your music.
Yes.
Very
And so it was in a
powerful.
certain it was in a certain realm in them days, where the Lord began to really tell me about my life and what he wanted me to do with my life. I didn't understand it back then. I'm sure you know exactly what I'm talking about where, life began to make sense in now. You know what I mean? Prior to that, it was very much like a battle. But he began to tell me, many things about the kids in the tunnels, about the man that would come eventually one day. He kind of described Donald Trump to me. So when Donald Trump came, I began to like look at him like, is this can't be what, but it was something that kind of only existed in my prayer world and the spiritual realm. So when I saw Trump, because he gave me a message that the man that would come to do this job would be wealthy. He would come from the world of the elite, from their realm,
Mm,
that he would not fear them and he would be connected to the military. And Trump, he checked all the boxes, So I
exactly.
kept saying, this can't be happening. And I was just like, wow, this is so, I couldn't believe it, really.
Wow.
So it's just really an honor to be a part of it. And our coming together is the most important aspect. That's when the walls come down.
So where do you think everything's headed right now? Do you think we're on track? Do you think we're making a lot of progress, particularly in America? Do you think it's going
Yeah.
a bit slower than you would like, or what's the situation there? What's the feeling there?
Right. So where we are now is this, obviously with the banks collapsing right now, this was the marker that we've been waiting for, from all of the reliable sources that we know.
Is that
They're
the
telling us,
Silicon Valley Bank has just gone down? Is that right? Silicon Valley Bank?
make sure you get you
A
one of
nice
these
mug.
JFK Jr. cups. He's alive, guys,
I love it.
and he's in charge. Say hi to your vice president.
Hi.
And
um,
if you want to get one of these, all you got to go is go to the JenniferMack.com, Mr. Wano Saving, and go get you one of these. This is official John F. Kennedy Jr. merch. He's alive, guys.
wow.
Uh, he's alive.
It's really exciting, isn't it? So you said the banks have gone down. So I think
For the
Silicon Valley Bank just went down a few days ago.
Yeah.
Are you hearing of other rumors of other banks coming down? Is Citibank
Well,
unsteady or
so
something?
the economy is supposed to gradually crash over the next couple of days. It's going to accelerate. It's going to drop, from what I understand, 20% every day until it gets to the breaking point, boiling point. People won't be able to get money out. There'll be a little bit of pandemonium. There's going to be an EBS at some point, and we've heard this many, 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 many times. But from what I understand, uh, the reevaluation is happening. That that's all happening. If you are about the XRP and the XLM and all the gold back digital currency and all that, it's all happening. So we're
I'm
we're in
learning.
we're crossing the threshold now.
I'm learning gradually about the quantum financial system because they're channeling things through to me in stages so that I can teach my audience because it's actually quite a big thing, the quantum financial system. But the most exciting thing for me recently, and I just did an interview with Mark Atwood about it, but having problems uploading it. But did you see the thing with Donald Trump where he was announcing the quantum leap and he was talking about
Yes,
the freedom cities? Did you see
yes,
that at the
yes.
CPAC speech? And I've just got a little printout here of the main things that he was saying. He's talking about Agenda 47, and that we're going to have a quantum leap in America in the standard of living. And I think this is the Nosora Jasora framework personally, because he's talking here about building freedom cities,
Yes.
building air mobility transport industry, building America into a manufacturing superpower. This is a nice one here. Building up families through lower costs of living and baby bonuses for a new baby boom. So this will be brilliant because this will be bringing in the new high vibration children that are going to lead America in the future. And then building, and could only be Trump that would say these words, building a beautiful America with great modernization and beautification. And it's only Trump that would say words like that, beautiful America and beautification. And when I saw these main points, these all to me relate to Nosora Jasora, putting money back to the people, building up the economy, creating a peaceful solution for the American standard of living. What do you think about that, Pryme?
Well, when you talk about the golden age, and I have a broadcast I do. It's called "1,000 Years of Peace." As you know, the golden age
Yeah,
that's predicted many
yeah,
cultures across the world to
yeah.
come, which is parallel to what we believe as well as the coming of Christ. Some people call it the golden age. We call it the coming of Christ. It's the same thing, essentially. But this time, there's going to be no tempter. There's no propaganda. There's no ruling class elite. The world is under new management. The manager of the world now is our creator. He somehow, hmm, he somehow embodied the man that we know, Trump, and there's some other aspects to that, but he's going to manage this world. He's going to make this world heaven on earth. And But I have a little broadcast, and in that intro, it kind of describes the 1,000 Years of Peace. So if you haven't seen that, check that out. So you do see a model of the freedom cities with the
Wow.
anti-gravity technology,
And
the free energy technology.
where can people find
Yeah,
that? Is that because do you have a
it's on it's
YouTube
on it's on my website.
on your website?
It's on my website. You can watch it there. It's called "1,000 Years of Peace." And but it's very similar to what you talk about with the golden age. It's the exact same thing. Um, so it's really profound. What's about to be unleashed? The technology, the med beds, as obviously everybody knows about the med bed technology, but it's much beyond that. We'll be traveling from solar system to solar system
Exactly.
in like
Yeah.
seconds.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So as a religious man, I think you would call yourself a religious man. I imagine you studied the Bible. That's where your heart is. That's my understanding. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Everything is not in the Bible. The Bible has some issues there. Um, King James altered the Bible. You can't alter the spirit. You can't alter interpretation, but he has altered the Bible. However, God's message still comes through. God is in the business of working with imperfect vessels, imperfect human beings, imperfect
Mm.
books, imperfect world. And he seems to get his will accomplished one way or another. But I believe we take many paths to get to the same place. And but Yes, I believe that the Bible is inspired. Um, I believe one of the great lies and the great deceptions is um, that the Bible or this Judeo-Christian worldview is an enemy to every other worldview. I really believe that we're looking at the same house from a different angle a lot of
Yes.
times. And
Yes.
if we can change our perspective from that three-dimensional combative me versus you, we can see that we're really saying the same things a lot of times. And I think ultimately that's where the Great Awakening is going to take us.
So the reason I was asking you about the Bible was because there's this second coming, I understand. They say that Jesus will come back. Do you think
Yes.
that somebody that's around already on the planet is the embodiment of that in your
Well, well, what I will tell you is I do. I believe that God chose a man, and he determined within his own deity to pour out the full measure of his power and authority upon a man to accomplish his will. And that one is what we call the Christed one. But I also believe that we are all Christ. We are,
Hmm.
um, so it's not that we are to worship him. It's not a religion. I think that's one of the great misunderstandings. Jesus came as an example to teach us who we are. He didn't come to be worshiped. He came to reintroduce us to ourselves that we lost through some of the genetic engineering of the fallen ones, the engineering of the modifying of our DNA, and we lost our divinity through the rebellion. And so Christ came to say, listen, you don't know how to use your earth suit. You've become like cattle. You become barbaric. You don't know how to use your earth suit. Let me show you what you can do. You can tell this mountain, get up and go into the sea, and it can do it. You can do that. You can tell this sick person, get up and be healed. You can do that. So and I think we haven't understand that, but I think the Great Awakening is going to help us to better understand that. But yes, Christ is here. These things would not be taking place if he wasn't here on this planet. Um, One of the things that I will say is this: in the record of Moses regarding the fall of man, book of Genesis, describe the Christ. We can look at him in many ways, the crucifixion, the resurrection, and all that. But let's deal with the fact that the very first prophecy about the Christ is that he'll be defined by one particular act, is that he's going to be the one that's going to put an end to the serpent bloodline. The one who can completely annihilate this modified Luciferian, satanic, reptilian bloodline from the face of the earth. He is the Christ. This operation to execute elite class of reptilians is proof positive that Christ is here. Only Christ can do it. No one else.
So you
So
always
who's that?
say that John F. Kennedy Jr. is in your opinion, he's here, he's alive, he's going to be the second coming. What evidence have you witnessed or heard or seen from your own
I can't see what
experience?
well, I'm saying he is alive. I'm not saying he's I'm not saying anything. All I'm saying is he is alive and you can get a cup at the Jennifer Matt. He's
So
alive.
I agree with what you were saying about, we're all part of, if you want to call it God or the higher power or the consciousness, we all come from, we are all made in the same image. And
Yes.
when I'm teaching as well, I always say to people, it's what has meaning for you. Whatever you feel is up there, whatever you're connecting to. You don't have to call it a particular name or label. If it makes you feel like a feeling of profound love, then that is correct for you. We don't have to worship any particular deity or we don't have to read any particular religious book. We can all have that profound feeling like you've had, like I have, through our own pathway. And nobody is more should be revered more than anyone else. We're all like children of God. um,
Yeah.
what I wanted to ask you, Pryme, because you're so good at articulating your passion, have you ever thought of opening, I don't even know, you might have done this previously, but have you ever had a church of your own?
Well, I've done a lot of ministry. I've done a lot, particularly outreach ministry. I did
Wow.
have a ministry at one point in time. It was called Church Without Walls. And we believe that we are the temple of God, that God dwells inside of us. The
Yeah.
kingdom of God is within us. Wherever our 2 feet go, that's where the sanctuary is. Um, it's just God dwelling with man. In the days to come, and I'll get back to your question, but in the days to come, according to the book of Revelation, when Christ comes, that he will dwell amongst us. He tells us that when God will come down, some people call it the New Jerusalem, that's God's heavenly government coming down to this earth. But God himself will come down with his government, and his throne will be established here, and he will govern this planet. And there will be no need for any religion. It's very clear, as in the book of Revelation, that there's going
Yeah.
to be no temple, because God is going to dwell with his people. And we're going to come out of this age of religion and ideologies and religions and this Tower of Babel confusion division era. It's going to be completely gone. That's going to be one of the great distinctions of this time. And the way the Spirit of God is going to permeate this planet, the way it's going to pour out. Some people call it ascension or the Christ conscious or whatever.
Yeah.
However it pours out and permeates humanity, you won't be able to resist it if you have the love of God in you. Whatever you call yourself, whether that's a Muslim or a Jew or a
Yeah.
Christian, Christ is going to call all of his beloved anointed children to him. And whatever is misunderstood will be immediately understood. You're not going to be in confusion, and there will be no conflict between peoples.
Yeah,
There will
because
not be any
people,
conflict.
most of the conflicts are over interpretation of religions, maybe because of the way the holy books have been written for each one. And when you actually just connect to the Spirit of God in your own way, if you want to call it God or consciousness or higher power, when you find a way to connect through your own methods, you realize that actually we're all exactly the same. We don't need
Very
individual
true.
teachings as such, but certain people find it easier to follow or make that connection if they go down different routes. So for me,
Right.
it was meditation that helped me. Meditation helped me to find that connection. And then I witnessed angels. That's how mine began. This angelic visions, and they used to guide me. Um, you said to me at the beginning of the video that you'd had something really similar where you'd had a visitation or a vision or something. Was that in a dream, or how did that happen?
Well, I'll share this with your audience. I haven't really shared it with too many people. Um, but it was a very big turning point in my life, as I began to seek to understand God, um, and devote my life to Him and walk with Him and change my ways and begin to follow His word. Um, he began to reveal Himself to me, in dreams and some very dynamic things he began to show me. I began to really seek him about what did he want me to do with my life. I really didn't understand. I wasn't nobody special. I didn't come from a special family. I didn't have anything special to offer. I mean, I really didn't know what he wanted me to do particularly. And I began to seek him for a while about that. And then he did come to me in a vision and an out of body. I wouldn't call it a dream. It was more of I was very conscious in a very another realm. Where the Lord Himself, His hand came down. I know it sounds dramatic, but I'm just going to share it
Wow.
with your audience. And it came on down, and from the sky, a very large hand, and He put me right in His hand, just like this here. And He lifted me up, and He spoke to me, and He told me, "You're going to be my intercessor." And He took me and He moved me. I was in a group with all of these leaders, and He took me and He moved me to a place that didn't know. I didn't know where it was, but the years that followed that, He placed upon me a tremendous burden for this country. And it was really just kind of like I won't call it a secret ministry, but it was a private ministry. It was something that I did at home and early
Mm.
hours of the morning, late hours at night. It was not something I talked about, but it was something that I was devoted to. And in that time, I began to learn God in those realms of prayer. Um, and many of those things comes across a lot in my music. My
Yeah.
music was the vehicle for me to actually publish it and get it out. So if you haven't heard any of that music, check out the music. You'll hear some of those messages that go back. Songs like The Revolt, songs like Clarion Call, songs like The Fifth Kingdom. This was early 2000s, and a lot of this stuff is fulfilled. It's prophecy, you know. And I did become somewhat of a pessimist in the spiritual warfare because I saw, no matter how much I was praying and felt like evil was still reigning, I kept saying, God, what are you doing? Until Trump came, of course, Trump and Q. And I'm like, holy smoke, you are a promise keeper. But one of the things that I learned is that God had many voices. And I began to understand the manifold wisdom of God is that, I'm just one person and I have one experience, and he's the God of all the earth. So he has children across this vastness of the earth and the universe, not just the earth.
Yeah.
But in the constellations of the stars, he has other life forms there too, that he governs them too, and he created them too, and they have his consciousness too. And I begin to understand that as much as, we want him to be, he's my God, he's my, it's like, well, he is my God, but he's also your God, and he's the God of all the earth. And I begin to understand that the cabal, uh, they engineered a lot of what we our contention is not really the will of God. And I think that as the truth comes out, um, it won't be so difficult for us to come together.
What was interesting was when you said you prayed sort of privately in your own home, we still make a difference even if we're doing it individually in our own lives, because we're all energy. So even if we're just doing a very small group meeting with like-minded people and we're praying and meditating and we're focusing on what is our purpose and how can we serve, then our energy, because it's energetic, it goes out like a wave and it reaches all the others. So you don't have to have millions of people following you, and you don't have to be up on a big stage with millions of people watching you. Just that individual process each day of connecting and trying to be the best person that you can be in each moment and saying, how can I serve? And focusing on being just in the energy of that creator, we are always emitting this frequency that helps all the others. So even if, like you were saying, at first you were doing it in this private way, you were still affecting the whole. And this is why it's so amazing how the energies all join together to make us like one group of people.
Yes, that's what connects all of us. That's what connects all of us. As different as we are, we have that light, as you would call it, light, that purity. It's a purity within the human soul that is there at the time of conception when we're coming to this world, before we put on our ideologies, before we put on our cultures, before we put on our education,
Yeah.
before we put on our experiences. We are just this bright light. And then we have this layers of stuff that we put on years later. But if you can somehow tap into that, whatever that is, that light
Yeah.
that doesn't have an agenda, sending and receiving messages to the creator. The deep calls to the deep. He talks to that part of you, but he can't talk to you if you're talking with your college education or religion, because religion is not necessary. Religion's gonna go. It's gonna be out of here. God wants pure-hearted people, um, and lovers of humanity. So if you can tap into that purity, you can have a one-on-one conversation with the creator himself.
I totally agree. We're all souls in a different costume, even animals. I always say to people, animals are still souls, they're just in a different costume. All of us combined make this amazing movement. So,
Yes.
just to finish, then, Pryme, where are you headed now? What's your plans? What's your ambitions? What are you still doing? Are you going on another tour this year?
Well, I'm going to be working on some new music. I have some
Yeah.
new productions we're working on.
Exciting.
We still do our meetings and on the podcast. But as things kind of come to a close, this phase of is going to be over, and so I look forward to doing some amazing humanitarian projects in the world.
Mm, yeah, I think. And will they? Do you think you'll continue to share your love of music? Perhaps you could teach children or young adults from troubled backgrounds or something how to, I don't know, sing or to just allow
Yeah,
things to flow through them and write. Is that
yeah,
something that I could see you doing that actually, if you haven't done it
yeah.
already?
Thank you. Thank you. Yes, I would love to do that. I would love to, kind of help mentor folks into finding their voice, in the trueness of their own individuality, their unique self, and speak their heart, their convictions, their passions, in song. To essentially that's just worship. Just
Yeah.
doing exactly what God has called you to do is the most perfect worship of God. And I think everything, we put everything into a box. Everything has to be a part of a box of some kind. But true worship is doing exactly what God designed you to do. And it's going to always give him glory. If you're doing what he called you to do, it's going to give him glory. So I would love to help people discover their true calling and purpose. Yeah.
The one final thing I just want you to ask is what does your family think about this route that you've taken since you had your initial sort of awakening and you had your vision? I mean, that experience of being in God's hand, I mean, that's profound, isn't it? That's a life-changing day. How did your family respond to this when you were explaining it to them?
Well, I have a mother. God bless my mother. My mother had me at, I was conceived in my mother's womb at the age she was 17. She was a teenage mom,
Wow, very
and
young. Yeah.
she grew up under a lot of pressure and poor and everything like that, and she had a lot of fear about raising me and whether or not she would be able to do it. And as I began to my journey with God, as I began to have all these kind of like angelic encounters and all these things happening, my mother said, she told me a story. She said, it makes sense, Randall. That's my real name, Randall. She says, it makes sense. She said, because when you were born, when you were in my stomach, I gave you to God. She said, I said, God, take this baby and be his father, you know,
Wow.
and because, we didn't have resources, we didn't have much money. And, and he protected me all of my life, and I can tell you some strange stories. Um, one story I'll tell you this story, but don't think I'm crazy, okay? But when I was a little boy, I was a little kid, I was probably not even five. But by the time I was five, his presence gets over me strong when I start talking about stuff like this. But but before I was 5 years old, I was pierced in my here and in my foot, and it's
Wow.
it's like it's like Christ was pierced here.
Mm.
I was pierced here, and I had become accustomed with excruciating pain. I had, from a little boy, and I never understood, God, why is this blood squirting out of here? And I'm phasing out of consciousness. Why am I going through this from a little child? And and then of course, I chose the name Pryme. He gave me that name, Pryme, and of course, it's a lot of similarities and just different things. With Pryme and gematria, what it represents, and just a life of walking with Christ. I'll put it like that.
Well, you're a
It's been
shining
interesting.
light when you're speaking, the passion comes through, the authenticity, and it obviously has been a calling for you for some time, and it sounds like it's going to continue and get stronger and stronger. And whatever you're doing in the future, I just wish you the best of luck, and I hope your music goes out far and wide to everybody. And I think that what we're going to do is put everything in the links below. Is that right? We're going to put where your website is, what your latest music is, where they can find your podcasts. Because I think you got taken down from YouTube again. Is that correct?
Yeah, 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 I did. But I gotta tell you, I gotta send a message to you from Mother Price, and Mother Suzanne Price told me to tell you that she loves you very much. She's a big
Oh,
fan of yours. She
thank
appreciates
you.
everything that you're doing, and she would love to have a chat with you. So I told her I'll ask her if it's possible. Maybe we can do some us three and have a
Yes.
little chat.
Oh, that would be amazing. Let's get that set up. Yeah,
Okay.
let's do that. So it's been lovely to see you
Thank you.
today. I always
Lovely.
love seeing your smiley face, and I love your
Thank you.
energy. It's it's infectious, and I wish you well with everything, my dear.
Thank you.
Okay.
And thank you for answering so many questions for me and helping me to better understand some of the mysteries of the Bible through understanding the galactic gospel.
Yes.
That's you.
Thank you very much. Have a lovely day, whatever you're doing next. Bye for now.
You too. God bless you.
Bye.
Bye bye, guys.
Bye.